right, here we go. We're ready for a live stream to basically wrap up the preseason, even though we didn't get any preseason games. I am John Hanson. This is fantasypoints.com. And if you're watching this, you're likely a premium subscriber. So we thank you for that. And I'm sure Greg Cosell and Adam Caplan feel the same way. Greg, it is the afternoon here on Thursday, September 3rd. Your environment looks a little different there. You're in the building, and that's fantastic. How are you?
John, I'm doing great. Yeah, it's my third week back in the office. Pretty excited about that. It's always nice to have a job.
Yeah.
I'm back to work, and looks like we're going to play a little football this year.
Yeah, and unlike me, I mean, you actually have to shower and all that every day
Well,
because
yeah, I was doing that anyway. Just I
right.
kind of like the hygiene
Out
part
of
of
out of
life.
habit. Yeah.
Well, I've had days in this business where I'm like, oh wait, I haven't showered in 3 days, Mr. Kaplan. Hate to transition to you.
Thank you
with
for
that
sharing.
thought.
Thank you.
I know that's disgusting, but how are you, Mr. C?
I'm good, man. I am looking forward to turning the page to the first week of the regular season. It's always a challenge because and particularly this year, because we don't have the preseason, just to figure out what's going to actually happen. It's one thing for a team to give you an idea of what might happen, but this year is so unique because clubs don't have the May and June OTAs to really figure out how much these rookies can handle because they didn't have it.
Right.
Just over 30
Yeah.
practices and
Yeah.
400 to 500 snaps. So it's going to be compressed, John, as I've been kind of warning you about. But I will tell you this, though. I'm hearing a lot more positive than I expected about rookies. Some are more advanced.
Yeah.
Some are taking longer, but it's been a little bit more positive than I thought.
Yeah, that was my thing. Like we all know the narrative has been pushed so far with these rookies. I'm like, okay, but let's find the dudes who can rise above these challenges. And there are many of them. Like, we're not going to cover everything. We're not going to cover every division. We've been over it a million times. Ton of content on the site. This is just kind of the last minute tidbits, things that I'm thinking about. And obviously, we got to start with Leonard Fournette now in Tampa Bay. Adam, I'll start with you. First and foremost, that contract could be at what, $3.5 million? What did you think of the money? Because, I mean, let's look at the money. That's where we get a lot of motivations and inclinations from teams here. What did you think?
Yeah, it's up to 3.5. So I haven't seen the actual breakdown, but the way I understand it, and they've never hidden the fact that they were going to sign one or two backs. Now, LaShawn McCoy, who's in his 30s, is clearly near the end. They haven't not announced the deal because a couple reasons. A, Fournette's got to pass the physical, and they haven't decided who they're going to release. It might be Kyle Love. They cut Kyle Love as a veteran defensive tackle.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, he's coming there to be the guy. It could be week 1. It could be week 4. He's got to learn the terminology. This is actually his 4th offense he's going to be learning in 2 years.
Wow.
You had DeFilippo's, the offense before that, Jay Gruden's, and now this offense.
And Adam, there's something going on here with Leonard. That's not really,
I've warned
healthy.
you for 2 years about Fournette.
I know, but you've spent some time with him.
Yeah.
I met him very briefly, but I don't think he's like a bad seed.
He's pretty chill. The word that I got from multiple people is he came in pretty entitled. He had been the man at LSU.
Yeah, I can see that.
Everyone told him how great he was, and it kind of went to his head.
Yeah,
there's 3 or 4 minor off the field issues. If you add it all up, he was an underachiever. And I say underachiever, and Greg could attest to this. The guy was such an accomplished college player. He should be one of the top 3 backs in the National Football League. And quite frankly, he's not close to it. He's not bad. He's in the upper half, maybe the top 20. But he's so gifted, John. He should be special, and he had it in him, but it hasn't come out because it's not important enough to him. If it is, one more thing. Bruce Arians, if anyone could reach this kid, it would be he.
Yeah. We just don't know what's going on in the noggin there, Greg, because as Adam said, he is very talented. The dude's still only 25 years old, but his tape, I know, was not very impressive, right? He pretty much produced via volume and getting the ball here. Greg, what'd you think of Fournette's tape last year?
Well, there's a couple of things here that I would say. Number one, I think at his core, he's a volume back.
100%.
I don't think that you draft. I don't think you trade for Fournette or sign Fournette
Exactly.
with the idea that he's going to have 6 or 7 carries in a game and play 20 snaps.
I agree.
He's not that back.
100%.
He's a volume back. Now, having said that, I will say over the last 2 years, I thought that he became very hesitant, a little uncertain. He tiptoed a lot. I mean, if you go back, and this is now 6 years ago, if you go back to his freshman year at LSU, he was a powerful, explosive, decisive runner. And
Yeah.
people said after his freshman year at LSU, he could step into the NFL and be a top 3 back. And
Right.
obviously, then he had some issues, both physical and otherwise at LSU, and never was quite the same.
Yeah.
And did well. Keep in mind, his first year in the league when Jacksonville went to the AFC Championship
He
game,
was great.
that team was built on Fournette and the defense.
Yeah.
He was the foundation because we know that a back like that shortens the game, allows your defense to play fewer snaps. So he was the foundation of their offense 3 years ago. What he is now, based on the last 2 years, is impossible to say. He was,
Yeah.
as I said, without repeating myself, he was not very good the last 2 years. He would show a flash here and there and break one off, but he was not the consistent sustainer. He had too many runs of 2, 3 yards or less. Sustaining backs need to get 4, 5, 6 yards, and his skill set suggests that he should be that guy, but he hasn't been the last couple of years.
Back in LSU, I mean, he had some long speed, I mean, he had some juice, right? For
Well, he
a
would
bigger
actually
man.
he ran over people
Right.
because he wasn't uncertain or tentative.
Right.
I mean, I remember in his bowl game, I forget what year it was. I know it was against Texas Tech. He had about a 35 yard run, and people can look up that run against Texas Tech. I think it was relatively early in the game, and that was Fournette at his absolute finest.
Yeah. But, really for both, they went out and they got him. I mean, that is obviously an indictment on Ronald Jones. And certainly Bruce Arians did his due diligence. He was quoted today that everyone he talked to, kind of rubber stamped it. So, Greg, I'll actually go back to
Well,
you.
can I make one other point, and then you go
Yeah.
to Adam? Everybody's saying, oh, Bruce Arians doesn't play that way. Well, that's wrong. In 2016, David Johnson had 293 carries. So
Yeah.
it's not a case of, oh, Bruce is just going to toss it around the yard and he doesn't want a back to run the ball. I think it depends on who the back is. He just
Yeah.
hasn't had that back in the last
Mhm.
couple of years.
Right.
If
Yeah.
Fournette can become the Fournette, who's to say he doesn't get the ball 260, 270 times?
Yeah. Yeah. That's about, that's kind of what I was saying. Like, what do you think about this environment? I think it's a pretty decent O-line. Obviously, you're playing with the GOAT, Tom Brady, who can likely help out a running back when, he comes up the line, a stack box, check it to a run, put him in a good spot here. And it's a good environment. It's a good culture. And by the way, Greg, I mean, you could argue, and maybe McCoy would be the best, most accomplished receiver on the roster, but A, we don't know if he's going to be there, and B, we don't know if if he's toast or not. But you could also argue that he's probably their best receiver, right? Their most
As a runner,
accomplished.
yes, as a
Yeah.
running back. And also, you made a point about what Tom Brady might see. They've got Evans and Godwin. You might not see a lot of hardcore 8-man fronts against
100%.
Tampa. So, they've got some big time weapons. And I watched Mike Evans this summer, and he is rarely talked about, John. You know this. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about fantasy. I'm just talking about in the general conversation. Adam knows what I'm talking about. But Mike Evans is a big time NFL wideout with far more vertical ability than he's given credit for.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of spoiled. We're not used to
Yeah.
dudes that big running that well. And his route tree is, I'm sure, expand pretty well as well. But gut feel for both of you. Will the Leonard Fournette signing work out? Will he be, kind of their guy? I'm sure Ronald Jones will get some work here. I mean, I've got Fournette with like 17 touches a game in 15 games, which is pretty proactive. Greg, gut feel based on everything we know, will this move work out?
Boy, it's so hard to know because I don't know
Yeah.
Leonard Fournette. I
Right.
mean, if you look at Leonard Fournette at his best, I would say yes, it would work out.
Yeah.
I just don't know what he is. As Adam well knows, because we know people involved who are in Jacksonville, his commitment can clearly be questioned. Being in shape can clearly be questioned. We'll
Yeah.
see if this motivates him. Sometimes when guys are basically told we don't want you anymore, sometimes it motivates them. We just don't know.
Yeah, Adam, maybe you're better for the question here. All things considered, the environment, the culture, the fact that they did the due diligence and they're putting themselves out there. I feel pretty positive here that Fournette will not let them down. Let's say maybe he's not the same player, but I feel like he'll put his best foot forward here. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would liken this. I'm not saying Corey Dillon was a pretty good back, but when it doesn't work out for a player, sometimes they need to change the scenery. Now, I would tell you, if it doesn't work out with Bruce Arians, he's probably done. If Bruce Arians is hard on players, he'll put his arm around him after he's been tough on him. But every player likes playing for Arians. We saw the Eagles do this with LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi, particularly Ajayi, who had issues with Adam Gase in Miami. When you see greatness around you, you probably will not act up, or you probably stay in line. I'll give you a real life story with Carson Wentz. When they got Ajayi in there, for 2 or 3 weeks, the first 2 or 3 weeks, the Eagles felt like he was completely different than they had heard. Well, part of it was because Carson Wentz was playing at elite level. This may have been the best team in the National Football League by midseason. They didn't know it then, but it probably was. When you see everyone doing the right thing and you're in a great environment, you're probably not going to want to bring people down. So, John, that plays into what you're saying, and I agree with you. It'll probably work out from an off-the-field standpoint, but I do go back to what Greg's tape study showed him.
Yeah.
It clearly was not the same back last season.
Now,
that's an issue.
Now, I will say, and I know you've talked to people, everyone I've talked to 3 different people who've been at practice this summer, and they all say, he looks good. He looks a little slimmer and trimmer. That's why it was such a surprise, right? You've heard the same thing. I mean, he's not out of this world, like, oh my God, but he does look good.
From a physical standpoint, but again, it's the explosion from tape study that Greg was talking about. He was not the same back last season. Despite the 76 catches were out of nowhere because they didn't have a third down back. By the way, those numbers are going down. How far down, I don't know, but he won't get anywhere close.
Well, he won't be the third down back.
Right. Although they did tell me, the Jaguars said he was a decent enough pass protector, but believe it or not, last year was going to be Betty Cunningham before he got hurt. And then he never came back, and they had nobody else, so it had to be Fournette. But he won't get anywhere close to that per game.